Welcome to the Texas Values Report. This is Jonathan Sines, president of Texas Values. Great to be with you on another glorious week in the state of Texas. We have somehow rolled into October and the Texas legislature is still in session. Hey, if you weren't at our event last week, boy, you missed out. We had a tremendous event, the Faith, Family, and Freedom Forum, the largest faith and family public policy event in the state of Texas, took place last weekend. I'll mention a couple of highlights, some wrap up on that, including Governor Abbott signing a pro-life bill at the event. Danny Goki with my assistants attempting to raise the roof with some great Christian music. Of course, the Lieutenant Governor and a lot of other people there, including our guest today, State Representative Briscoe Cain, who is the chairman of the Elections Committee in the Texas House. He's been a part of so many important efforts across the state of Texas during his time as a state legislature, but even before that. And there's no question that one of the issues that he cares about the most, and he cared about before becoming an elected official and likely had a lot to do with motivating him to run for office, is the life issue, standing up for the unborn and protecting pro-life interests. And that's something he's continued to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Look, if you're watching, like this post, share it, get it into some groups, because we're about to have an interesting conversation for about 30 minutes. And we want as many people to hear and see it as possible. So let me welcome our guest to the Texas Values Report. State Representative Briscoe Cain was elected into the Texas House in really 2016 was the election, took office in 2017, and has been representing the east part of Houston, similar to where I grew up, the Deer Park area, Baytown, just some great areas where a lot of industry takes place. And so, but, you know, look, he and I have been friends for a long time. He's licensed to practice law, and a lot of that revolves around the pro-life issue. Welcome back to the Texas Values Report, Representative Briscoe Cain.
Hey, Jonathan, man, I like that you're pointing out that people need to be sharing this. Look, if your friends aren't familiar with Texas values, they need to be. Jonathan, I don't know how you and your team ever get sleep, because y'all don't stop. You're one of the few organizations here in Texas that is kind of constantly pressing the battle. We're not on the defensive. You guys are on the offensive, bringing the message of true Texas values to the people and getting things done. A lot of people talk the talk. A lot of organizations are out there fundraising and taking money, and then you wonder, is my money going to anything? Is it actually getting a product? And I'd say that you're one of the few organizations that I trust to do the right thing, because y'all are fighting for what you say you believe in. Thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. And look, I appreciate the friendship that you and I've had over the years that's changed in a lot of ways, right? Now we focus a lot on getting things done at the Texas Capitol. You and I participated in court cases before, litigation. We stood on curbsides doing press conferences in front of the largest abortion clinic in the state of Texas and maybe the country, in the Houston area. And so it's great that, over the years, we continue to be able to work on important things. And now you've got a growing family. You've got a team of people working for you. The same thing as well for me. But the issues we care about don't change. And I'll tell you what, that's one of the things that you've always cared about, is the life issue.
Jonathan, believe it or not, what's funny is now that we even get to hang out together, I won't go to the details, but I remember sometime 2010, 2011, I'm working for somebody. I'm a personal assistant, and you was kind of a hero of mine, because you were over at First Liberty, the Liberty Institute then, and you come in, and I was kicked out of the room, believe it or not, because I was just a staffer. Y'all were there to have an important conversation, and now I get to be part of the conversation with you. I was just kind of this big-eyed law student that was like, man, I want to be like that guy when I grow up. And then I was told to leave the room because y'all had, big boy talk. And it was the early days of creating Texas values now, but it's really kind of neat that how it's come full circle, and I've gotten to see what your organization's become and the awesome team that you've built. Sorry to take all that away. It's unsolicited.
Oh, look,
you guys, but I'm really proud.
Oh, and I remember that event too. And, I'll tell you, look, I've been involved in this work for almost 2 decades now. When I actually think about it, I've been licensed to practice law since 2003. I'm coming up on almost 20 years as a licensed attorney in the state of Texas. And I noticed people. I noticed you that day. Obviously, I noticed Burgundy was there with you that day, right? I noticed when people, you can tell they've got a passion for the issue. It's pure. And like you said, a lot of times they just want to be a part of the conversation. They want to be a part of helping whatever role it is that they're in. And we all have a role to play. I've been on a lot of calls over the past month as it relates to the Texas heartbeat law. And one of the messages that I continue to try to get out there is everyone has a role to play, and we've got to stay united as a movement as we move forward. As you and I are talking right now, we're live. This will be recorded and put out on the radio in the next couple of days as well. But there is a federal court hearing right now. The Biden administration, Department of Justice, is arguing to take down our Texas heartbeat law. The count is up to almost 4,600 babies saved since the law went into effect in September 1, right? It's amazing. It's a lot to celebrate. And I just left our conference room where we were watching by Zoom the Department of Justice lawyers, the Attorney General's office, and then you've got people that are representing private entities, but it's all sort of hanging in the balance. But we're in such a great position. And so, look, you filed the first heartbeat law in the state of Texas in the 2019 legislature. Our organization supported it. A lot of House members signed on to it, but it didn't go anywhere, right? For whatever reason, it didn't move. Starting this legislative session, you filed it again. And it was set up that you were going to lead the effort in the House, but it turned out we had some big election issues come up. Here comes Shelby Slauson, a freshman legislator, but a lawyer from North Texas. Next thing you know, she's carrying it. But your influence and your involvement was very key to the Texas heartbeat law.
Believe it or not, y'all's influence actually goes back further than that. If I can tell the story, we forgot about the 2018 Texas Republican State Convention, in which myself and Tom DeLay go in there for the Legislative Priorities Committee and convince them to add heartbeat as a legislative priority. Y'all had supported it then, and by the way, the only, I guess, pro-life group at that time that supported the heartbeat bill, and so I'm thankful for that. And of course, we got a lot of momentum there in the last session, and then during the interim, we realized we need to do something else, and so. Quick story with Janet Porter. She meets Brian Hughes at a
look, the two of y'all spoke at our policy event last year. Remember, you and Janet Porter were there together.
There you go. And then after that, she goes and meets Senator Brian Hughes at a National Association of Christian Legislators event. She sends me a text essentially and says, "Hey, I just met this guy. He seems interested. What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, get him on board." We then spend the year up to January of this year working on the language and how it should be and what it should say. It just mass amounts of details making this thing exactly the way it is. And this is why I think they lose in federal court right now. The DOJ is going to lose. They're going to get poured out. We're going to win. Now, whether we lose at a district level, I wouldn't be surprised, but I definitely think the Fifth Circuit's going to be with us. In fact, this bill was designed for that. And then you mentioned Representative Shelby Slauson comes in. Shelby Slauson also had filed another heartbeat bill. It was her first bill that she filed, and admittedly, I was kind of a little perturbed. However, what a more perfect person to carry it. If anybody watched her action on the floor, she was impressive, and she showed that she really wanted this thing. She came in as her first bill to file of her first session ever. She filed a version, and we said, you know what? You need to be the one to carry the real one, the one that has saved so many lives now. And her and Senator Brian Hughes made such a great team. And it wouldn't have been done without you guys. Y'all were there from the beginning and getting all the things. In fact, in order to do such a big lift like this, it takes a lot of minds. You've got to have, our sessions are really short. I think a lot of people know that. Our regular sessions are 140 days every other year. When you're doing, we call these big lifts, it's kind of, people need to know that this is what we're doing ahead of time. And y'all were able behind the scenes to get work on the governor and the lieutenant governor and the Speaker of the House and the chairman of calendars, Justin Burrows and Speaker Dave Phelan. They were on board in January of this year to get this done. And that takes groups and voices like yours and the grassroots that you have respond to your calls to action to even get that ready to go. So thank you. But yeah, it got done, and here we are saving babies.
Look, and I appreciate that too. And you think about what goes into it. A lot of people don't realize. They're like, what do y'all do when the legislature's not in session, as if there's nothing to do. This one's a little more unique this year, right? We're now in our third special session. I say you're the elected official. Our organization plays a role. So it does feel like, we're just as involved in it as elected officials are, including yourself. But a lot of work does go into it beforehand, right? And your point with the Republican convention and then leading into 2019. And look, I'd like to say every law that we have passed, it's the first session, you get it done. And maybe it should be that way. It shouldn't take that much effort, but sometimes it does. And so there, you get to this point, particularly if it's a significant pro-life law, it can take some time, and getting people on board. The way that this law was written to some people was different than maybe what they saw before. And but it's also about building a team, building a coalition, and just, building a lot of people to come around it, to where members also see, okay, this is what a lot of people want. And, to your point about Shelby, Representative Slauson and Brian Hughes, right? They made history together, right? And I wanted to give you some of that credit too, because it's rightfully deserved. But we don't get to that point if you're not in a position to say, you know what, I think this is a good thing to do. And you sort of pass that over. But I know that you were also working behind the scenes and doing it another way to support it. And not to mention, fast forward, now you've been sued. So if you weren't directly connected to it before, and you were as a co-author, now you've been brought in because I don't remember who it is now that's filed a lawsuit. They want to make sure that they've got your name involved in this one way or another.
Yeah, well, the members know behind the scenes, but in order to get things done, it requires trust. And not to brag about you guys again, there is really only one organization that every time I'm walking through that lobby, past all the lobbyists, there's a group there, and it's usually a member of your team, Texas Values, that's consistently there. By doing that, you build a relationship with these members. And again, you are the only ones really doing that. And so that whole time of pushing, getting people to go sign on to it, I mean, before we'd even, pass the one, I think we were around 70 co-authors of the sheet. And then we were able to transfer that. And everybody was fine. They're like, yeah, let's have Representative Slauson do it. And she went and got even further, but y'all were there the entire time. And that means so much. It wouldn't have been able to be done because you're passing out things. Hey, go sign on. Hey, go sign on. You're just pushing it. And people trust y'all because you're there. You can't
no, and I
once in a while.
That. And not all of them do we have the history and relationship that you and I do that goes back many years. Shelby Slauson, we have a C4 organization, a partner organization that did endorse her election, but we still didn't know her that well. We'd never worked with her like you and I had. We never spent a legislative session working on something before. So she comes in, but we had a lot of faith in her, but still you kind of start from scratch. And
I'm glad y'all endorsed her. You don't realize that there was an incumbent there.
Yeah.
An incumbent that she beat who was pro-choice. I mean, what a great story. What a pro-choice doctor get beat by a pro-life female who in their first session as her first main bill carries a bill to stop murdering babies. So it's an awesome story. I know we haven't gotten into the details. It's fun background. Sometimes people like to, peel back the curtain and hear the real story. And so thank you for being bold and being willing to step out and go against an incumbent. Some people are afraid to do those things. Y'all did the right thing, just as you always are, is doing the right thing. And I thank you for it.
Well, and I appreciate that. That's one of the reasons people need to come to our gala on November 6th. It's going to be in Houston, Texas, on the west side, at the Westin Memorial City. Fabulous facility. Gosh, I wish I could tell you who the gala speaker is going to be. It's on verbal commitment. I'm still waiting for that signed contract, but it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be incredible. The person that's going to be our keynote speaker, and a lot of great friends that are going to be there. Chairman Cain, I hope you'll be there.
I'll be there. I'm Briscoe.
I appreciate that. And it'll be a part of recounting what happened. We're going to be giving out awards that night to legislators like State Representative Briscoe Cain, who distinguished themselves on faith, family, and freedom throughout the legislative session. One of the other issues that you worked on, obviously, was a big reason why Shelby Slauson ended up carrying a heartbeat law, was the election issue. So you got major election integrity legislation passed. Of course, here comes somebody trying to file a lawsuit on it, but it's getting a lot of attention across the country. You could say it had a lot to do with the Democrats fleeing DC. They came back, but now you got it done. Tell us why that's so important, and what do people need to know about it?
We pass some a big change, meaning something that's decades long and overdue. The changes we made were, not in response to November 2020. A lot of people try and say that some of these things we've been trying to get done multiple sessions, but due to procedural errors and things such as Senator Hughes's bill from 2019, it didn't pass. But it gave us, we spent a lot of time working on it. As you know, Not every member writes their own bills, but I enjoy doing so and was there countless hours, even during Winter Storm Uri. Representative Jason Japan and I were in our offices tweaking and working on every kind of word and line and language in these bills. Of course, due to the Democrats breaking quorum in the regular session, we had to, then do it again, and we got it done in the second special session. But much of that language, the concepts that we worked on the entire time are still there and almost virtually unchanged. The two major things from talking with the Attorney General's office that were problems that they had trouble prosecuting was vote harvesting, as I like to call vote trafficking, and unlawful assistance. So the two largest things that needed to be addressed. And until now, prosecutors and AG's office didn't have the tools in the toolbox. For example, the way it was written for vote harvesting prior to now, and by the way, the law will take effect on December 2nd of this year. They couldn't do it because these ballot harvesters got smart. The statute was written that it only prohibited compensation, which means, cash money, a check. They realized that they could bypass this by giving benefits, maybe giving people jobs, or giving their son a vehicle, or food, or all these other discretionary acts. And we had to get broader. And so I believe we actually took care of that. We're going to be able to go after these rings, these crime rings, because prior to that, you would maybe charge one person that was part of this, really a syndicate, a criminal ring, and you can never get them to turn on the boss, right? The person who's really behind this, the guy pulling the strings of these ballot harvesting rings, because the penalties were simply too low and it was too hard to prove because, again, they were using benefits and not compensation. We've solved that. The other one is illegal assistance. This may sound odd. People, generally those that we in our society believe are easily taken advantage of, right? So to qualify for assistance under the election code, that's there in chapter 64, you need to be essentially someone that's blind, deaf, or illiterate. You're unable to read the ballot. You're unable to see it or hear or have someone explain to you, or you're unable to understand the language in which the ballot's written in. Generally, there's people that get taken advantage of. We have special laws to protect them from someone taking advantage of them. But what was happening is people come up to them and put their arm around grandma and say, hey, come with me. Not even making sure they even qualify for it to begin with. And some of them don't question it. It's a culture in some areas where it's been happening for so long, they're just used to that's how you vote. We heard testimony in committee where a lady would say, when do I get to vote? And the unlawful assistant turned around and said, you just did. So you have two things. You've got ballot harvesting, which is where you're literally stealing someone's vote with financial incentive. I mean, that's a problem. Our laws often really frown upon when money's exchanging hands or you're stealing something from someone. And then illegal assistance. You're literally voting for them. They're not having a choice. You're doing it on their behalf. We've addressed those. It's revolutionary. We were not able to prosecute it prior to this, and now we'll be able to. We also did something a lot of people wanted to see, which is voter ID for mail-in ballots. Now, while the left and the liberals all screamed and acted like we were creating something new, several other states already have this.
Yeah, I don't see the media talking about that. They
don't
like
want to, because there was this myth that you had to make a copy of your ID. No, you just write your ID number or the last four, if you didn't have one, last four digits of your social onto the application, and it goes on the carrier envelope. So one, we can match them. But by the way, there's actually a state out there that requires you to actually make a copy of your ID. And that's been held legal. We're not even doing that. Because granted, it's kind of not an easy thing. Not everybody really has access to a Kinko's, especially here in Texas and rural areas. So we took care of that. We ensured that watchers are not wrongfully excluded. A lot of things we did were actually clarifying what the law really is. One of my two favorite provisions in the bill, really early on in chapter 1, we say that the language in the code is to be strictly construed. Go figure. It means what it means. To stop liberal judges from implying something else, to stop interpretation that somehow you can magically create 24-hour voting or drive-through voting. We would actually have fixed that because it says it means what it means. Another one, great provision, I believe, and it's now in 276.019, we prohibit all government officials and election officials, that would be your election administrator, right? They're unelected, they're appointed, from altering, modifying, or changing or suspending the election code unless the election code authorizes it. That's a really big deal. Again, guess what it means? It means the law says what it says, and that's what it is, and there's no changing it. Those are really, really big improvements.
Yeah, and that's pretty straightforward and simple. We're talking with State Representative Briscoe Cain, talking about the election integrity bill that's now been signed into law, goes into effect December 2nd. There's a big election even before December. There's a November 2nd constitutional ballot initiative, if you will, election. One of those issues is religious liberty. It's third on the ballot. That's very key. So the government can't shut down churches and religious organizations. And so elections matter and the law matters. And you got to be able to read the law. And oh, by the way, let's follow the law and let's not make it complicated. So it's helpful when we're trying to simplify things, and it's frustrating, right? And you and I maybe appreciate this more than others as lawyers and policy people and people that write this kind of stuff, how people will find a way. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night sometimes during the session. Did we put the right word there? Because somebody's being paid. They're looking for a way to sort of exploit it or take advantage of it. And it's just not right. And so there's value to trying to make it simple, but also straightforward. And I was listening to this court hearing earlier. It was by Zoom on the heartbeat law. And there's a lot of discussion because the Texas heartbeat law is pretty straightforward, right? But here's the Department of Justice trying to find a way to get around it, trying to say these past court precedents that say you've got to do it this way. Oh, that doesn't apply. And so it matters. The type of tedious kind of efforts that you're involved in, they matter a lot. Now it's signed into law. And now hopefully we'll have maybe some restored sense of faith in the election process, because I think a lot of people over time have started to wonder whether or not their vote is really counted, whether or not it really matters, and whether or not you should even vote. I mean, what's the point? Somebody probably stole the election. A variety of reasons people get frustrated, and that can send turnout down to where people feel there's no effect. So
yeah,
I think
you gave
this
me
goes a long way.
You inspired me on two things. One, on the election thing of people's trust and faith in it. That was a primary concern in doing this, that they need to trust it. That way they are encouraged to go vote. And so I think we've made great strides in restoring that trust in our elections. While the Secretary of State, in committee had said they believe it was, for the most part, safe and secure. For the most part, it was. But there were problems. And I think just as one baby's life matters, one person's vote being stolen or voice being silenced also matters. And so
elections are decided by one vote sometimes. It is not.
They are. Hey, my primary runoff was decided by 23 votes, right? So they all matter. Now, to the Heartbeat Act, the complaints that we're allowing use of private causes of action to enforce our laws, it's kind of funny that the pro-aborts are now complaining about something that they've been doing for a really, really long time. And you had mentioned that there's always going to be somebody that's going to test the law or try and find a way around it. Granted, maybe people need to be reminded of this. There are far fewer conservative, Christian, liberty-minded lawyers like ourselves. We are outnumbered. Now, as anybody that's ever read scripture knows, that you don't need a large army. You just need God on your side. But it does mean that conservatives need to wake up and realize that using the courts and using the law and using prosecutors to advance this policy is something that I think the conservative movement for a long time has kind of neglected. As you know, you used to work at Liberty Institute. The budget for the ACLU and others are far greater, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars compared to 20 million. But we can still, even with that small amount and God on our side, advance those causes. Now, here we are dealing with the issues of abortion and life, and we're bringing those concepts into that we don't always just look to the legislature or the judiciary. We need conservative attorneys to advance these causes. We need to be concerned with the judiciary, those who are interpreting our laws. Too often we look to legislative action. But
you're absolutely right.
The right judges there to properly interpret the law that the legislature passed. And I think we're going in that direction.
Yeah, look, and we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes. Before we do, I just want to make sure everyone knows the hearing is concluded on the Texas heartbeat law. I just got an update from our law and policy team from our office. So the federal court hearing from Biden's Department of Justice trying to take down the Texas heartbeat law desperately. I mean, I was listening to the hearing earlier. They really didn't have any arguments based in law to make. I mean, really, essentially what they were saying is this is a new and creative law, and that's why it should be ruled unconstitutional. And my view on this is, look, just because the Texas heartbeat law is new, it's creative, it's unique. That's true. That doesn't mean it's unconstitutional. And just because it's a pro-life law that saves lives, that does not in effect make it constitutional. That's really the only arguments that are made.
Yeah, we can say the same about Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, that's how laws are supposed to work. The heartbeat law is making it clear that at a certain point, a baby's life is protected. And you know what that means, Representative Cain? Almost 4,600 babies' lives have been saved since September 1st, when the heartbeat law went into effect, because a vast majority of the abortion entities are pulling back their services. Look, I know we've got just a minute or so left. There's the third session is still going on, special session. We want to get the Save Women Sports Bill passed. We want to see some other stuff get done. And you guys have about 2 weeks left. And so stay in touch with us so we can help.
Look, we need your voice to get members to go sign on to Representative Swanson's bills. Thankfully, we've got some referred to great committees. By the way, did you know that I got served with 13 lawsuits attending your event last week?
I saw that. Yeah.
I was walking in. Yeah, it was outside of your event.
How did we not do a Facebook Live and just break that whole
13 heartbeat
lawsuits?
All right,
we got about 30 seconds left. We got to bring Briscoe Cain back. Come on November 6th. He's going to be at our gala. You can go ahead and get tickets for that. He was a great guest on a panel last week at the Faith, Family, and Freedom event, which was the largest event we've ever had. We broke significant records. If you see value in our work, donate at txvalues.org so we can advance the issues of faith, family, and freedom. Representative Cain has been our guest today on the Texas Values Report.
Adios.